balmy shores of sunny Florida to the cold winds of Chicago and everywhere in between. You're watching the Red Wemette Show, live, coast to coast. And now, Chicago's talk of the town, Mr. Red Wemette.
Hello, folks. Today is January 5th, 2026, and I am Red Wemette. And this is the first show in 2026, first Monday. So, welcome. And Lonnie, how you doing? Smoke that like button. Share and support the subscribe. Thank you, buddy. Timothy Foster, how you doing? I'm trying to get to this. Good evening, Red. Good evening. Red and the fellow Wemetters. How we doing? Jim Magnifici. Well, today I'm going to talk about something that you probably weren't around for it, but it happened in 1989, and I tried to put a copy of it in the description, but there is a copy of it on my Facebook page, and it's a newspaper article, and it happens to be in 1989, right after the trial of Frank Schweis. And Frank Schweis was on trial for extortion with Anthony Daddino, who was his father was a big heavyweight and the whole thing. But anyway, that's who was in the article. Happy New Year, Tuna, Big Tuna. How you doing? So anyway, why don't we just get to it? Mo, how you doing, guy? Good evening, Red. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Mo. So we're gonna get to this thing, and I'm gonna try and read it to you as much as I possibly can. This is like I said, it was in 1989, October of 1989, and the title of it was "Looking the Part Kept the Agent Alive." And it says, heading south on the Dan Ryan Expressway, undercover agent Dick Johnson was racing through his mind how to come up with a story that that would satisfy mob hitman Frank Schweis, that he could get him to swallow. Quote, here I was with the most vicious individual, one of the most vicious individuals I'd ever met. And he wants me to go to a bar owner who knows I'm an IRS agent. Johnson recalls. He said, I didn't want to see him because I owed him money. And I didn't want to hurt him if he demanded anything. So the violence would be not too good. Anyway, the mobster Frank Schweis was with him in the car, and he aborted the trip to the South Side. And Johnson was using the name of Virgil Williams while he was working undercover. He was an IRS CID agent, criminal intelligence agent. Pretty tough guy, too. So his interest was in buying his Old Town restaurant that was in his name. And that was the meat block. A lot of problems with that meat block. But the mission was that one of his risky assignments, Johnson, now 50, look back at 28 years in the Internal Revenue Service as an agent. In the wake of a recent conviction of Schweihs, Johnson testified what he actually knew about him and involving his career and his undercover operation. South Side native, Johnson investigates such piercing different things as money laundering, drug dealing, all different kinds of things. But he was playing Schweis, who was convinced, and even in the courtroom, that Johnson was there bona fide, and Schweis was tried to convince everybody else that he didn't have any mob ties. We could sit in the restaurant and he'd look out the window and point to people as they passed, and he'd say, thought you were an undercover agent, said Johnson, who now worked for Nescore. Nescore was footnote. Nescore was a company that Andy and Rich Lucas started, and I actually worked for Nescore in Florida, but a private investigation firm based in Hillside. I'd asked Frank Schweis how he knew he could tell the difference between an undercover agent, and he said, "I can smell him." He sat right there with him. Johnson befriended Schweis while posing as a prospective buyer, and by the sale, he could close the deal until politicians for the proper licenses. He needed a liquor license bid. If he'd have closed the deal, though, he'd have been screwed, because Schweis was just going to hurt him and take the liquor license away, take the whole place back. At one point in their conversation, Schweis turned to me and said, "I wish we whites were as aggressive as you blacks." Johnson recalled. I almost choked. He said, "This is a guy who was more violent than anybody I ever met, besides Joey Lombardo, the West Side boss." And Johnson was built like a weightlifter, and he carried a weapon, and he was backed up by several agents at the time. But he said, at times I was frightened. Fear is a good thing to have. It keeps you from getting killed. Part of the trick of being an undercover agent is to look the part. And he said he did look the part. So that was the title of this whole thing. Looking the part kept an agent alive. And there's more to the story, but I don't think you really want to hear it all. I thought it was something else. It really was. You know, the odd thing about this is I I wasn't afraid of Frank Schweis. And I didn't have a bunch of agents backing me up. And I met with him all the time. I mean, there were times when I was with him alone. I didn't like it, but my edge was he knew me for 20 years. And that was my way in. He was positive that I wasn't a mole for the FBI. That's the way it was. So, anyway, getting back here, Mo's saying, welcome. Good evening, Red. Hello, everybody. Tech Tornado. This is really happy for America. Okay. Hey, Red, Schweis is one of my favorite subjects. A smooth operator. Yeah, he was one of mine too at one time. Happy New Year from upstate New York, Syracuse. Tim Peroni. Yeah, happy New Year and good afternoon. Annabelle saying hello. Hi, Tim. This, I have no idea what it means, but whatever it is, thank you for stopping by. Rob, I made an FO, a Freedom of Information, regarding my father. I'm confident that he was an FBI informer for years, a few years, and then was a bookmaker. The Fed said we can't agree or deny. No, they can't. They don't have an option. Jacko, what's up, Red? Tell us a story about the little guy. I will in a minute, maybe. Hey, Red, good to see you. Jacko, the little guy, saying hello. Happy New Year. Rhonda, my Italian cowgirl. How you doing? Good to see you. But anyway, that's the kick out of this whole story that I get is that in 1989 at the trial, I love you, Bill. Maybe the Alpha guy is still blitzed from New Year's Eve. Maybe. The crowd. Christina's laughing too. I just kind of got a kick out of it when he testified because I'm on my own through this whole thing. I didn't have any backup agents. I certainly wasn't built like this guy was. And he was a black man. He was a large black man. And I mean, not large in the sense of being fat. He lifted a lot of weights. I mean, he was very capable of taking care of maybe 2 or 3 other people in a physical altercation. But he was worried. Well, I found out there was a lot of people that worried about Frankie. Frankie was not exactly what most people would get along with, or most people even wanted him around them. He was one of those dangerous people. And I said on many occasions, he was the most dangerous man I ever met. But I took 13 years out of his life. I thought it was 12 when I looked at the sentencing, and it was 13. He was sentenced to 13 years. And that was a good thing. Also, he was not at his sentencing because he was being treated for kidney cancer. And later on, he was doing a lot of other surgeries for cancer. He did one in 1987. So this is in 1989. He just kept going in for a lot of cancer treatments and always got the best. It was always at Rochester. And Red, who do you think? This is not the first time somebody's asked me that. Honestly, buddy. Who is scarier? I never met Larry Newman, but one thing I will tell you is Larry Newman wasn't all there. And he might have been more difficult to be around because he's allowed to do something really stupid. Whereas Frank was pretty logical. He was lethal, but he was logical. And Jacob, who do I think was more dangerous? Harry the Hook Ailman or Frank Schweis? Sophie? I mean, I didn't think Ailman was that tough, honestly. If you wanted to get to a tough guy, probably Scarpelli was a big guy and tough. But Frank would have made short work of either one of them. As far as Larry Newman, Frank would never be around Larry Newman. Scarier, I might be scared of Newman because he was a psychopath. I mean, totally, he was out to lunch. I mean, from what I've heard, him killing several people at one time. And what I heard about, I don't know, an argument with his wife, Frank Klaus said, he went and he killed the people in the bar and he killed a couple innocent people too. He was just an animal. Frank was a deliberate hitman. I mean, this guy was somebody that was trusted by the mob, the guy's way up there. If you look at Larry Newman, Larry Newman never talked to any of the bosses. Larry Newman only talked to Frank Kalala. Tony, as a matter of fact, I think he told Tony, he said, if you ever get in an argument, keep that guy away from me. Red, I get the impression that Frank Schweis would have been an SS guard in the death camp. He would have had no moral problem with it, period. That was it. Mario, I don't remember why Tony Borsellino was killed. I think it was he was murdered for using the boss's name and collecting money that didn't belong to him. But don't quote me on that. And it's something I didn't know Tony Borsellino, so I really can't tell you that way. If you're going to talk about something with Tony Spilotro, I'd probably be able to tell you more. And people like to hear about Tony. Tony was a great guy, a very close friend of mine. Kind of like my buddy Dan. I mean, he was Larry Cohn. Hey, Red, enjoyed your recent video when you were young and crazy. Yeah, and I was that way when I met all these people, because at that time period, when I was riding a bike, motorcycle, I was in between back and forth. I was vacillating between becoming a full-time biker or becoming a full-time thug, and it wasn't good. Wasn't good at all. How many fights did I see the little guy Spilotro in? None. Most people walk very lightly around him. In the early years, like 1968, 1969, 1970, I never saw him alone. He was walking with Irv Weiner, or he's walking with Joey Lombardo. He was with more than one person. Phil Aldericio. He was with him a lot. And he was not alone at all. And what he used to do was, he was an easygoing guy, very easygoing. That's the way it was. Glad you changed your mind and became a successful businessman. I was a businessman day one. All I was thinking about was money. I was looking at life and saying, I don't want to be poor. I don't want to have problems. And I'll do whatever I got to do to get it, to get the money and get done. And at that time, some people criticize me for it because they say pornography is so filthy and it's ridiculous. I know that my family, they weren't exactly pleased about it, but I still didn't go around killing people or hurting people. Wasn't the kind of thing I wanted to do. If I did hurt somebody, believe me, they deserved it. They really had to rock my boat in order to do it. So, but I never saw Tony in any fights. I heard about some of them. And Tony carried a 38 in his waistband. And I've never carried a holster. And the reason for that is the old time mobsters never carried a holster, ever. Because if they need to, they could toss the pistol. That was it. There was no holster on them, so they could say, hey, whose gun is that? I don't know. And a lot of times it was the old thing about settle the problem on the street, talk to the police, get it settled right there. If somebody's buyable, buy them. And that's the way it was. Larry Cohn, I was wild. I was wild and crazy. And I did some things that I look back on now and said, I don't know why I did a lot of those things, but I did. But these other things that I'm talking about, when I was working with IRS or FBI, whatever, and I would actually like this. Judith Dobkins was a U.S. assistant U.S. attorney, and she gave me a really hard time. I flipped one of the people that wore a wire on 3 mobsters, and after wearing the wire, she promised that she was going to, make sure that my friend didn't have to do any hard time, and there wasn't going to be any major fines. Well, that wasn't true. Harry Lineweber gave her 10 years and $3 million in fines. And later on, when I ran across Judith Dobkins, I was in Florida. And she said, oh, she never liked me anyway. We had some arguments. But she said, oh, this is where you are. I'll bet a lot of people would just die to know where you live. And that was something that was, it was something else. This is secondhand. An associate, a lot of things are secondhand. An associate, no name, for Ricardo wanted to retire. And Ricardo said, we have a lot of soldiers to feed. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Rob, I'm sure it was said because it's true. No, I didn't, Jim. I never had anything to do with the Elmwood Park crew. And on top of not having anything to do with the Elmwood Park crew, I get a kick out of Bob Cooley and several other people that said, oh, the Elmwood Park crew is the strongest crew. That is bullshit. I mean, they were never the strongest crew. If you go back in history, it was always the Cicero crew. That was the strongest crew. And then in between that time, the Grand Avenue crew. At the end, you talk about 1994, 1995, that area. Then it was, I mean, the Heights was a strongest crew at one time too. Chicago Heights. That was when Capone was alive. But through the 90s, 95, 96, that's when DeFranzio was there and he was the boss. And there was nobody left. I mean, Cerrone was in prison. Everybody's in prison. So, in my opinion, and only my opinion, they were scraping the bottom of the barrel by the time they got to Elmwood Park, because the heavy hitters were gone, really gone. Red, doing foolish things, often illegal and wrong things as a young man, and living long enough to enjoy the freedom is a privilege. Don't feel I deserve it, but I'm grateful for that. I am too. I'm totally grateful. I have the same feeling, Kraut. I really feel the same way. I mean, I was talking to somebody about this the other day when I was talking about the video I did. The truth of the matter is, I never planned anything in my life. I didn't plan on going in the Marine Corps. I didn't plan on coming home from Vietnam. I didn't plan on a lot of things. I didn't plan on outliving some of the people in the outfit. I thought I'd get killed for sure. It just went that way. Were the Grand Avenue crews and Elmwood crews combined at one time? In the 90s, maybe. It might have been the 90s. I don't know. When I was around in the 80s and the 70s and the 60s, no. And I mean, the real ball, you got to say through the 70s and 80s, it was very, very Grand Avenue. I mean, that was the powerhouse. Lombardo made it. Well, actually, Phil Aldericio made it. It was that way. Red, did you ever get into a physical fight with any associates, CIA, IRS agents in the early days? Yes. Yes, I did. I had several physical altercations. And I want to tell you, there's one thing that the Marine Corps taught me, is there's no such thing as a fair fight. There's no such thing as dirty fighting. There's winners and losers. And I didn't follow any rules, and I came out on top. But I have to tell you, I took some real good beatings when I was in the Marine Corps. It was really that way. Red, were you at Tam O'Shanter and Niles the evening Sam? No, I was not there when he was anointed. I was nowhere around him at all. What can I tell you about Milwaukee? Phil, I did know him well. And some other people that I knew, or that I know now, knew him well too, like Seifert. Nick Seifert talks about him. And Joey Seifert talks about him. But Phil was a very likable, jovial guy. If you were going out to someplace and you were getting something to eat, if they didn't have what they wanted, Phil would tell them, go out and get it then. I mean, he wanted to, whatever it was, like Irv Weiner, Phil was very much, Irv Weiner was like Phil, but very much so, he wanted the people around him to be happy. If he was having a barbecue, he made sure you had everything that you wanted. I mean, he was a very accommodating person. I've heard other people say he spoke in a gravel voice. I never heard that. But I've heard other people say that he had there was death in his eyes and things like that. I guess it would depend on who you were and how you were related to him, or how you did relate to him, because that had a lot to do with it. Phil had a very distinctive voice. Do you agree? Everybody's voice is distinctive. My voice is distinctive. Schweiss's voice is distinctive. Tony's was very distinctive. I mean, it just was. Red, do most Alpha guys have regular jobs, or were they mostly on the street? The associates all had regular jobs. Most of them had jobs through streets and sanitation or through one of the building trades. And that's how that went. The building trades helped. Most of the guys I knew were bricklayers, plumbers, pipe fitters, and they got their jobs through the unions. That's how it went. Timothy Foster. Why did they call him Milwaukee Phil? He was from Chicago, wasn't he? No, he was originally from New York. But he came to be called Milwaukee Phil because he was up by Milwaukee and he was boxing up there. And his real name is Felix. And I believe it was Belliastri, the boss up there in Milwaukee, said, we can't call you Felix. It sounds like a sissy's name. So they changed it. And later on, he was known as Milwaukee Phil. But he was running in his early years, Timothy. He was running back and forth to Capone headquarters in the Lexington Hotel, asking for a job as a runner or anything. And finally, they gave him a shot. And he was a go-getter, another big guy. Yes, some people worked at the convention center. Some people worked at McCormick Place. All those were union jobs and mob jobs. Aldericio. That's Milwaukee Phil. It was nice. It was a good time. It was a very good time in history. I mean, there were a lot of good things going on back then. It was just one of those things. But the guys that did work undercover, like Dick Johnson and some of the other guys, they may have had backup, but believe me, it took us to do it. Here we go, RV Doc. Red, do you know anything about George Sayer or Billy Skidmore? No, I don't. I know nothing of it. Larry Cohn, you grew up in Milwaukee, and yeah, that's the name I was talking about. What's his name? Frank Belliastri? I don't know if they're around or not. I really don't. Did I ever go to the Villa Venice? Surprisingly enough, we lived in Wheeling when I was a kid. We moved out there in 1955. And Wheeling, it was right by not far from the Des Plaines River. And that's where, even though sometimes that address is put as Northbrook, it was Wheeling, Illinois. And I used to play there on the gondolas on the river. It smelled. It was bad. That river was really polluted. But anyway, I used to play there as a kid. And my parents used to go there. Occasionally, they go there quite a bit. And my dad worked at in Melrose Park at Polk Brothers. So all the mob guys used to come in from Elmwood Park and that area and see him. He actually sold several items to Tony Accardo and other prominent people that were mob guys. And that's how that was. Did I ever have any dealings, Philip Dilbert? Did I ever have any dealings with a guy called the Pizza Man? No, did not. Al Tortino? No, never did. There was a guy by the name of Little Tony that I had some dealings with, and Little Tony disappeared. You know, RV Doc, I think I've been talking to you for many, many years, way before I did my book, Chain of Lakes, Pisteki Bay, Big Dam Outfit Playground. Actually, the whole Chain of Lakes and that whole area, uh, Lake Geneva, it was all an outfit playground. And Billy Kemp was up there. He was building things left and right. He was the construction man. They built a lot of things. There was a lot of mob up there. Yeah, it has been a long time, RV Doc. It's got to be a good, what, 20 years, 15 years? You were selling boats? I think I called you. We talked on the phone several times. Samuel, do you recall the dry cleaners, Italian neighborhood, grocery, 1926, and then on 1924 Grand Avenue? Any stories? The buildings are still there. The stories on Grand Avenue, the only things that I knew were Diamato's Bakery, which I used to go to, and Jelly Belly owned Rosie's Sandwich Shop. His wife was Rosie, and that's why they call it Rosie's Sandwich Shop. But there were a few stores on there that I stopped at in the neighborhood, and they were all just regular good people. I mean, there was nothing strange about them to me at all. I liked them. Some of those people I actually went up to Michigan with. We went up to Niles, Michigan, and we used to go snowmobiling and all different kinds of things in the winter when I was crazy about doing things in the winter, which I'm not anymore. Things have changed. Heck, I'm getting old, folks. I've got just a few more months here. Yes, you're a boat dealer in Fox Lake as well. And I didn't know you were connected. I didn't know you were connected, guy. Congratulations. You're alive. I remember talking to you on the phone. It's a long time ago. I don't know if you remember it or not. Sometimes when I was talking to you, you talk about you had to let me go because you wanted to you wanted to sell something or close a deal. What is one message you have for the kids and teens of today? Educate yourselves, get educated, and learn as much as you possibly can. And get rid of that thinking of work hard and get out of school and get a job. Start thinking about how you can go into your own business and how you can be your own boss. And that may be a lot. It may be a lot. Yes, it does ring a bell. Fox Lake. Lake Harbor. I remember that. But that is my message for young people today. Teens. If you have the kids and teens of today, what is the message for the people that have them? Keep your eyes on them and keep them alive. Keep them away from drugs. Keep them away from all the other bad stuff. I mean, I lost a son. I don't even want to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it. Did you ever meet Evel Knievel in Chicago? No, I met him in Berwyn and Cicero, in that area, and then eventually he went to trying to think of the name of the place. It's on the south side, and he did a couple shows out there. He was very good. As a matter of fact, there's a guy I called recently. His name is George Herstack. George became part of his party. I knew George when I was a kid. We grew up a couple blocks from each other. And George became part of his entourage and went with him. He traveled all over the country with him. And when I spoke to him about 2 weeks ago, George said that he said that there wasn't one motorcycle that he ever jumped with that George didn't build for him. And George doesn't exaggerate a lot. He's been through a lot of things in life. I'm surprised he's still alive. He's my age, but he had a very rough life, very rough life. And he talked about some other things too. George had a school called American Motorcycle School. And I asked him, I said, George, how'd you make out with that thing? That was big. It was nationwide. And he said it was a headache. He said it was babysitting. I was constantly babysitting people, drove them crazy. So, yes, and I didn't like Evel Knievel at all. It's very arrogant. I don't like arrogant people. Do I still live in Chicago? What's my favorite place outside of Chicago? No, I don't live in Chicago anymore. When I left Chicago, September 15th, 1988, I moved to a house I'd already bought in Sarasota, Florida. And I didn't stay there very long, maybe 3, 4, 5 years. And I moved to Palm Beach. And from Palm Beach, I moved up here. I'm up in the Panhandle now of Florida. I'm at Panama City Beach, and I love it up here. It's something else. You ever do any real estate deals with the notorious Louis Wolf? I didn't, but Jimmy Kozo did. Louis was a gambler, a heavy gambler, and he owed a lot of money. And there was a couple places that Kozo told me they had liquor licenses, and Kozo just asked me. He said, "Do you want this place? Go over and take a look at it." And I told him, I said, "Louis Wolf's the landlord." He said, "Don't worry about the landlord." He said, "Do you want the place? Because if you want it, I'll give it to you. You can have it. You don't have to pay any rent. All you got to do is, cut up with me." And I didn't do it. I just didn't do it. The crowd. Best advice for young folks is work with your hands and try not to believe you know everything. Yeah, I guess so. That's good advice. That's the one I'm thinking of. The amphitheater. I think Lowe owned the amphitheater and auditorium. He had the front for the mob. And that was where Knievel actually was at the amphitheater that he played. And I went and saw him. We're talking about 1965. We're talking about, nobody really knew who he was at that time. Yes, Bob Conrad, the actor, was mobbed up. I saw him at several times with Tom Selleck and other people over on a place called the Bird's Nest on Wall Street. It belonged to Billy Kent. There were a lot of people that hung out there. It was a very nice place. And I never saw him to be anything but a lousy drunk. The other guys I really liked a lot. I never got close to them. I didn't want them. Also owned air rights for a while, block in Vegas, and one of the biggest Vegas strip clubs. Okay, that's nice. I tried to research on Joey Hansen online, but I can't find anything. Joey Hansen really flew underneath the radar, and you're going to find more on him in Chicago. If you look in the Chicago Tribune, you'll find things go way, way back. After he moved to Arizona, there's very little written about him. And you say, I guess, did I know him? No. Any stories? None. I guess he did hits with Paul Shiro. Yes, he did. Any ideas what hits Joey was involved in? I believe it was Tamarand. He did that. But then he moved to San Diego. He was down there. You're talking, I'm in talks with coming out with The Godfather 4. Interesting. I don't know if it'll even sell. Can you imagine the chief of detectives running his own burglary ring? Unbelievable. Yeah, I can. It's been going on for a long time. There are a lot of them. I mean, if you're talking about Bill Hanhart, that's, it just was what it was. I never trusted Hanhart. I never talked to him. Actually, Brazak was a friend of mine. I was always over their heads. I didn't mess with the little guys in between. I think the Indian was involved in trying to move in on the Indian casino. You're thinking wrong. You're guessing, guy. He had nothing to do with it. That had all to do with the Elmwood Park crew and Wings, Carlisi. Why do you do that, Rob? You're all over the place, guy. Did I ever meet any strippers at the Admiral Theater? No. As a matter of fact, I only went over there several times to see Pat Ricciardi, and never wasn't my thing. Most cops were on the take here in McHenry County. I don't doubt it, man. I mean, it was everything you could have back in those days. How about the old wrestlers? No, I never got close to them either. I didn't want to be. I was a different kind of guy, man. I wasn't down in the trenches. Red, you care about the wager on the upcoming Packers care game? Losers, winners? Not really. We're gonna coffee and Italian sandwich or beef. Loser also. Thank you, Bill. But you know something? I gave up on the NFL many years ago when they started doing all their expansion teams. And they really expanded. This is like in the 90s. And I got blocked out from watching games, even though I paid for an independent satellite, 10-footer, a big 10-foot satellite. And I used to go through a company called the Superstar Connection. And they would tell me, nah, we can't give it to you. I mean, we could, but if we did, we'd lose our rights to distribute it. So that's when I said, the heck with this. And I lived in Sarasota then, and they blocked me out from Miami games. They blocked me out from Tampa games. Later on, they blocked me out from the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I said, that's it. I've had it with the NFL. I stopped watching them. I watched a little bit the other night of the game, and Chicago lost. Packers and that's always been a good game. The Packers and the Bears. What's the biggest change in law enforcement from your time to today? There's a lot of them. I mean, there's a whole list. The biggest, I don't know. I live in Florida, and I can tell you right now that last month I didn't even know about it. We have open carry now. You don't need to have a concealed weapon permit, which I have anyway, but it's open carry. It's just other things that changed. I don't know. It's a little weird after. I think it really went weird to me after COVID or during COVID. Things went crazy. Actually, the whole country went to hell when we had Obama as the president. I mean, he made a lot of things crazy. That baloney with Trayvon Martin, where they showed him as a little boy, and he was really a 6'1" young tough. And they made it sound like this. It sounded like they finally held a jury trial after 2 or 3 years. And poor Zimmerman was found innocent, but his life was ruined. All because President Obama came down to Florida and said, oh, he could have been a son of mine. We have to get a special prosecutor for this. And people lied. They did all kinds of terrible stuff. Bad time. I mean, in my history, it's a bad time. Very bad time. Big Tuna, 815. More and more, it seems like the NFL is scripted. It's entertaining. Well, it's like the scripted wrestling matches. They were entertaining too. And then the boxing matches, they got fixed too. So, I don't know. If you enjoy it, that's what it is, entertainment. That's exactly what it is. Just like some of the things here on YouTube is entertainment. That's all it is. And that's why I'm staying away from AI, and I detest it. People that put up AI stories, I look at it and say, I just wonder how long we're going to last. I'm going to last as a person on here telling, of my personal knowledge and other things that happen, or if AI is going to win out, and people will be able to make up stuff that they hear from the internet or someplace else. I'd hope that I could do a little bit to keep it the way it is. It's different. I believe historically, I don't know. It hasn't gone that way. I mean, Green Bay has won and Chicago's won. I don't know. It's very different. Nick Solosi's movie? No, none yet. As a matter of fact, I tried to reach him to have him on the show today. Mr. Solosi. Couldn't reach him. Maybe because of the holidays. He might be up with his dad. Anyhow. Green Bay is really beat up. Usually by the end of the year, they're pretty much hit. But they might be beat up now. That's what I really look at, Howard, is I look at the injuries, and I also look at some of the other things. But if you can't put points on the board, you can't win. And one of the things I do like, other people don't seem to, is when there's high scores on the board. Doesn't bother me one bit. That means they're out there working. That means they may not, defense isn't doing what it's supposed to do. But special teams are something else too. I mean, you never know when you're going to have turnovers. Uh, the kicking team, the receiving team, all your special teams. What I haven't seen in a long time is the onside kick, which I love. Bill Phil comes from the 42 gang. Milwaukee Phil, yeah, he was part of that too. Very close to Sam Giancana. Those guys and that crew were Marshall Cafano, Milwaukee Phil, Sam Giancana. I'm trying to think of the other guy who was I didn't really know him, but they were all his guys. And when he went away to Mexico, kind of self-exiled, they were spread all over the place. But there was those guys, they were different. Mad Sam was not part of the 42 gang. Mad Sam was he was a money maker. I mean, if he hadn't got fixed up in prison with cash to lend, he probably wouldn't have been who he was. But Mad Sam was kind of on his own. Phil sent Milwaukee Phil sent Tony Spilaccio to look after Mad Sam and help him collect and keep his men in line because they were making money. That's why. A lot of people had that preconception that his orneriness and meanness came from Tony Spilaccio's, and it didn't. Not at all. It came from Phil. I like those onside kicks. I really do. The Bears just had a successful onside kick in their last game. Okay. And won. Let's see it happen again. The crowd, the whiffed field goals were key Steelers' victory in Baltimore last night. I don't doubt it. The field goals are very important. Will Adam be on Wednesday? He said he will. Does that make sure he's going to be on? I don't know. He called me today, make sure I was going to be on. Here we go. Whacked ham sandwich. How you doing, guy? Mad Sam was a shy, quiet sweetheart like Frank Schweis. I don't think either one of them were. How you doing, Tony? Mad Sam was a coke dealer. No, he wasn't. He'd have other people do it for him, and he'd just collect the money. He wasn't a coke dealer. He never got his hands that dirty. He only killed people. He only beat people. And then he really didn't do it. He had other people doing it, and he was there with a firearm or a cattle prod or something else, a weapon, because Sam couldn't fight his way out of a paper bag. He was old, and he was stupid by then. In his younger years, when he was 50 years old, he was capable of a lot of things he did. He was treated women very bad. He was a bad person. Great seeing you, Red. Catch you and Adam Wednesday. Yes, sir. It's time for me to say goodbye. It was very good seeing you. Thank you, Kraut. You're my guy. You know, behind me, if you look over my shoulder here, you'll be able to see the GTO that you sent me. But anyway, thank you, Christina. I really appreciate it. You're doing a great job helping me. You really are. And we'll see you soon. Until then, it's called Larry says, I applaud you, sir, for telling a story about you and my friend Dan. Danny, yeah. Good night. Good night, and God bless you. And we'll see you Wednesday. Red Wemette out.
The combination of the videotapes and Wemette's testimony resulted in the conviction of 2 men on extortion charges. One of them was Frank Schweis, known in syndicate circles as the German, a feared mob terrorist and a suspect in a number of gangland murders.
He was described to me by other outfit individuals as the most feared hitman. And as he said to me, my reputation precedes me, son.